Hello, my name is Crusher, and welcome to my Batman Arkham Knight retrospective. To give a little background information, I have been a fan of this series for a long time. I've played through the games multiple times each. I absolutely love this series, and I absolutely love Batman Arkham Knight. I think it's an absolutely incredible game. Um, but as you'll see in this video, I will point out a lot of the flaws that I think this game has, sadly. But that's the point of a retrospective, is to look back on things, whether are all good or all bad or whatever. And I hope you guys really enjoy this video. This video was inspired by the Smith Plays Zombies retrospectives. So if guys can go check out him. I think he's a really good YouTuber, and he definitely made me want to make a video like his Zombies retrospectives. But anyway, let's finally get into the retrospective. Now, to start, we're going to split this up into a few different parts. To start off, we're going to go over pre-release slash like marketing, I guess you could call it, for the game. Going over what the thoughts were for this game pre-release, what the hype was, what the trailers were, etc., etc. Well, to start, Batman Arkham Knight was revealed on March 4th of 2014 with a trailer called Father to Son, where it shows Thomas Wayne talking about what he wants for his son in his life and wants his son to do, and talking about how he doesn't want him to be some, rich piece of crap. But anyway, the trailer was revealed, and obviously people were pretty excited. The before this game was Arkham Origins, which was per se decently perceived. A lot of people didn't like it because it wasn't made by Rocksteady, and it didn't. Some people just didn't like it purely just for that. And also, the game had some big performance issues and some story beats that people didn't like. But after this trailer and revealing that Rocksteady was going to be making another Batman Arkham game, many people were very happy. And at the end of the trailer, it also revealed that Harley Quinn be the pre-order bonus, which that has happened many times throughout the Arkham franchise, where a pre-order bonus character was a thing. In fact, this wasn't the only pre-order bonus character for this game. There was also Red Hood, who was a GameStop exclusive pre-order bonus, interestingly enough, which both these characters later became DLC, so if you didn't get it from GameStop, you had to buy them, but, that's how it is for most games. But they were pretty cool for pre-order bonus characters. I've never been one to get too mad over pre-order bonus characters like some people do, but they were some good bonuses that definitely drove some people to pre-order from things like GameStop, because of course a lot of people want to play as Red Hood, so it definitely brought GameStop a lot of pre-orders for having that. Moving on, there was many other trailers that came out for the game, and I think the ones that got people the most intrigued, at least for me, was the ones that revealed Arkham Knight. So Arkham Knight was marketed for this game as a brand new character just for this game. They had made this character from scratch just for this Arkham game, and whenever I first heard about that, I thought it was really cool. Remember when I first saw Arkham Knight himself, I thought he looked awesome, and just I was really excited to see what this character was bringing to the table. Which, I mean, we all know how that turned out, but we'll get into that in a bit. There was a lot of hype for this game, especially because of stuff like the Batmobile. There was a lot of people who were really excited for the Batmobile. Of course, being able to be in a Gotham that's bigger, because the map is absolutely huge in Batman Arkham Knight as compared to the other ones. The Batman Arkham City is, I think, only like a fourth of the size of Batman Arkham Knight, and it definitely got people very excited to see that. And there was also trailers showing off the ability to fight with Nightwing and Catwoman and all that, which was a very cool addition where you could do dual takedowns and switch between them during combat, and you could actually play as these characters outside of something like the challenge maps. And that did maybe get some people hoping that we would have free roam with other characters in this game, which we haven't had since Arkham City, but sadly that didn't end up coming to fruition. After all that hype and build-up, Batman Arkham Knight released on June 23rd of 2015 with some fairly good reviews. The reviews ranged. IGN, per se, gave it a 9.2 out of 10. Metacritic gave it an 87%. Meanwhile, there's things like PC Gamer who gave it a 70%. But I think probably that is what had to do with its very rough launch on PC. Batman Arkham Knight ran just fine on the next-gen consoles it came out on at the time, which was PS4 and Xbox One. But PC had it very rough. It was so rough on PC that Rocksteady ended up removing it from the Steam store until they could fix it, which now it is out on Steam and it does run good now, but for the time it was a very, very bad situation, especially for PC gamers. But it did launch with very good reviews and a lot of people were hype, and it seemed like it was going to be a good game and people were excited to play it, especially after seeing the reviews. Now on to our next portion, the next part of this. We are going to go over the story of the game. Now, Batman Arkham Knight arguably has one of the weakest stories in the series. In my opinion, weaker than even Arkham Origins, which a lot of people think that has almost the worst story, but I think this one had a very weak story and definitely had some stuff that really got on people's nerves. So to begin, of course, this game's main villain is Scarecrow. But the thing with Scarecrow is he doesn't really do a whole lot throughout the game. Like, of course, he is a looming threat, of course, to release this fear toxin throughout the city is a big deal, and it is a big deal when it actually happens in the game, but he ends up not being that much of a villain throughout the game. Probably the most he does is trick Batman into thinking he killed Barbara, and Batman having to save Barbara, and of course him unmasking him in the end. But overall, he just felt like he was barely even he felt like a side villain throughout the story. But I think they could have probably done Scarecrow much better in this game. He doesn't even get a boss fight, which is very interesting to have your main villain not even have a boss fight. He even had kind of like boss fights in Batman Arkham Asylum, but they decided not to give him a boss fight in this game, which I found very interesting. And then there's the other big part to this game. It's in the name of the game itself, the Arkham Knight. Now, the Arkham Knight was, again, it was a mystery of who he was, but that mystery kind of started unfolding pretty quick, where they released some comics for the game that showed off Arkham Knight and kind of spoiled who he was, because he basically just acted like Red Hood, and immediately people were like, it's Jason. I remember watching videos of people speculating, and after watching that, or reading that comic, they were instantly tagged on to it's Jason Todd. At the time, I refused to believe it, especially with the Red Hood pre-order DLC. I was like, why would they have a Red Hood DLC and have Arkham Knight as a separate character? I personally didn't see how they could do that. Like, oh, why would they have both? And then I played the game, and it was Jason. It was also very instantaneously given to you because they constantly reference Jason Todd's death, which actually had not been referenced a single time throughout the series, which is probably the thing that got people the most, is like, well, why would they bring in Jason when they had never mentioned him before? We didn't even know he was in this universe, and all of a sudden, here he is, he's Arkham Knight. And they tried to say, oh, well, the Joker tortured him in an abandoned wing of Arkham. But for some reason, when you're in Arkham Asylum, even though you explore almost the whole island, you never see even a little Easter egg of Jason even being there for a second. So it's kind of one of those things that people didn't really enjoy because, well, why bring in this character that you didn't even tease once? Um, but yeah, and he ends up being Red Hood at the end and saving Bruce, and of course, Bruce gets his identity revealed in this game and ends up destroying Wayne Manor and supposedly becoming, at the end of the game, some sort of fear toxin using Batman that the city needed. But that's not all when it comes to story. That's just kind of the main stuff. Of course, we have a side story throughout this game with the Joker. Now, a lot of people throughout the Arkham series, by the time Arkham Knight came out, were really sick of the Joker. I remember when Arkham Origins came out and Joker ended up being the villain again after all the marketing of Black Mask being the villain. People were pissed. It was one of the big reasons that people said Arkham Origins was a trash game was, oh, here's the Joker again. In the trailers they showed him in the game, but they always made it seem like Black Mask was the big villain in that game, only for Black Mask not even to be the villain at all. He was Joker. And when people played this game and all of a sudden, after getting hit with some fear toxin, Batman sees Joker, it really didn't sit well with people because people were sick of Joker at this point. As much as people love Mark Hamill's Joker and as much as people love the Joker in general, they were sick of it at this point. A lot of Arkham fans just wanted a game without Joker. They wanted him to sit out for once. And it didn't happen with this game, even though that's what it seemed like. Of course, the blood that Joker had threatened to send out to hospitals that was poisoned actually did end up getting into a few people, and Batman had to quarantine them and try and figure out how to cure them, with him also being one of the people who needed to be cured. And we get a whole kind of side part where Robin is looking over these people and they eventually get out and he figures out that, oh, the last person who has this blood in them is you. And somehow this blood makes people Joker. I think that's one of the most far-fetched things I've ever seen in the Arkham franchises. Yeah, Joker's tainted blood can just turn you into the Joker. And have Henry Adams, some random old guy, oh, he's the new Joker now. It was interesting. I don't understand why they thought they needed it for this game, and why they needed this whole subplot of Batman trying to fight back Joker. I think it was just kind of put in there to have one last hurrah with Mark Hamill's Joker in the Arkham series, but I don't think it was a very good idea, especially with how much people disliked having him in the game. But I will say this, the sequence with the Joker people was kind of cool. I thought it was interesting, that whole level. And I think it's actually probably one of the coolest levels in the game, especially the dual stealth stuff with Batman and Robin, which we only really get in that part of the game, but you can do it in combat maps. Anyway, I'm getting ahead of myself with gameplay. Overall, I think the story of Batman Arkham Knight could have been much better, especially with the side stories. There was a lot of them, but a lot of them just kind of felt like, oh, here's this. Especially the Deathstroke one, where you fight him in a tank for some reason. But overall, I think Batman Arkham Knight had a decent story. I think it did its job well, and I don't really think of it as really bad. And I think the side quests are fun to do. But overall, I think it's probably got the weakest story out of all the games, but I mean, that's up for you to decide. Tell me what you think. Do you think that Batman Arkham Knight had the weakest story out of all the Arkham games? What do you think had the weakest story? Anyway, moving on to what, in my opinion, is the shining diamond of this game, is what makes this game one of my favorite Arkham games, and is just so good. And that, of course, is the gameplay. Batman Arkham Knight takes the gameplay of the other games and just brings it to a whole new level. It is so good in this game, especially with all the playable characters there are. There's so much variety. There's so much good combat in this game. It is one of the best, honestly, action game combat systems I've ever used. It's it's easy to pick up and play, but still hard to master. It's not the easiest, but it's still not the hardest. I think it's a perfect blend of hard and not too hard. I think it's extremely fun, and you just feel like such a badass to just be punching people and doing takedowns, breaking legs and stuff. Very fun. And I think that this game does an amazing job with the combat. And of course, the stealth is also amazing in this game. They, of course, added a new feature called Fear Multi Takedown, which a lot of people were quick to say this is overpowered because you do your Fear Multi Takedown, you can take down up to 5 guys after upgrades. All you have to do is take out like 2 guys with stealth kills, boom, it's back. I agree that it probably was a little overpowered, but I think it's so fun that I don't really care. And also, I think it's balanced out with the new enemy types they add of stealth. Of course, we have the minigunners now, which you can't use Fear Multi Takedown on, and you have to take out everyone else before them, because if you don't, you are screwed, because they will 100% kill you if you get caught by them. And I think they're a great addition. There's of course the new enemies that are invisible to your detective vision, which definitely give you a surprise sometimes. I can't tell you how many times I thought I was about to clear out the room with the last guy, and then I look at the side, oh, there's like 3 more guys left. I just can't see them. Um, I think they were very good additions. There was some very good additions in terms of melee combat too. There was new knife brutes and stuff like that that I think definitely spiced up the combat, and I think that they add a very good variety to the game. Though I do think that at some points they go a little overboard with how many different enemy types there are in one combat scenario. There are so many times where you'll go into a combat scenario and boom, there's only like maybe 2 normal guys in the whole bunch, and it's very hard to keep your combo up and be able to take out these guys, because I think the perfect way to balance it is to have enough little guys, or not little guys, guys who don't have any weapons out there to where you can hit them and get your combo meter up so you can do takedowns on the bigger guys, making it easier to handle with them. But Arkham Knight likes to put a lot of scenarios where you're fighting a lot of the different enemy archetypes rather than just normal enemies, compared to other games in the series like Arkham City, where they kind of have a better mix of it. But I still think Arkham Knight has very good combat, though the different enemy types can get a little overwhelming, especially in some of the challenge maps. And then there's the thing that I think people hate the most about this game, and that is the tanks. The tank battles. People despise them. Now, going around the Batmobile is fun. It's cool to like chase down like some dude in a car and all that. It's cool to drive around. But the tank battles are what ruin this game for many people. They pop up way too much throughout the story. There's even a whole boss fight with Arkham Knight where you're in the tank that is not very fun at all. There's so many tank puzzles, and it just pops up way too much. And then, of course, there's the Cobra tanks. The Cobra tanks are some of the worst enemies I think I've ever seen in a video game. They are no fun at all. You have to stealth in a tank. Anytime you're playing the game and you see one of those, your day is ruined. That's how it is for me anyway. Every time I went to go replay Arkham Knight, I'll get to a Cobra Tank section and I'll just want to turn off the game right then and there and be like, I don't want to play this anymore. I'd rather play something else where I don't have to deal with this. But at the end of the day, I end up doing it anyway. The Cobra Tanks are awful. I don't understand what they were thinking with these enemies. They are just really bad. And also, another thing that really held down this game in terms of gameplay is its bosses. There are almost no bosses in this game. There are only a few, and they are so unmemorable. To say the least, the best boss in the game is Professor Pig, and that says a lot. Somehow the Arkham Knight boss fight is super lame. You'd think they'd do something similar to Deathstroke, but they didn't. It ended up just being some boring boss fight where you have to grapple up to his um, gargoyle he's on and take him off of it a few times, and you're kind of done. It's a very boring boss fight. There's the minor boss fight where he's in like a giant mining machine, and you have to take that out, which isn't very fun. There's not really barely any boss fights in the main story. I think the best boss fights ends up coming mainly in the DLCs, such as not the Mr. Freeze one. The good boss fights kind of end up coming in through the DLCs, like the Killer Croc one, but still at that, I don't think that the boss fights in this game are special at all. I don't think that they even barely tried with the boss fights. They ended up being unmemorable and not very fun. But even with all that, I still think this is an incredible game. I still think that Arkham Knight, purely just based on the gameplay and some of the cool sequences throughout the story mode, I think it's just a very fun game with lots of content to enjoy. And I think if you're watching this video and you've never played the Arkham series or Arkham Knight, please go out and play this game. It's still one of my favorite games of all time, even with all of its flaws. And I still think it's one of the best superhero games of all time. Retrospective, please leave in the comments what you thought, what I should change if I do another one, if you guys even want another one, and what games maybe I should do retrospective on. Anyway, if you guys want to see more of me or even ask me some questions or talk to me outside of YouTube, you guys can hit me up on Twitter. You can follow my Twitter, or you can follow me on Twitch. I stream there pretty often, and I'm trying to build a decent schedule with that. So that'd be really cool if you guys came over there and supported that. Anyway, make sure to leave a like and subscribe. All of it helps out the channel. Thanks.